We're back for another episode on food safety. Today we're going to talk a little bit about hand washing and how you time yourself by singing the ABC song. Welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I am a food truck business coach, author of 5 food truck vending books, including Food Truck 101 and Food Truck 201. This podcast is all about helping you start and grow your food truck business.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Let's just go through some of the basics just real quick.
Sure.
Here's one that comes up a lot. When should you send somebody home that's sick as an employee?
There are what we call the 5 reportable symptoms. And when I say that, it is more reportable to management. So again, these are rules for the brick and mortar where they're assuming we have 20 employees running around front and back of house. So we kind of got to narrow it down to our food truck, our mobile food unit, where there may be 1 or 2 or 3 of us. But the reportable symptoms, meaning let the supervisor, the owner, the manager know, would be fever, sore throat, vomiting, diarrhea. Are the main 4, or the first 4. Then they throw in that 5th one, jaundice, which is the most uncommon one. But start on the common 4: fever, vomiting, sore throat, diarrhea. If any of the staff has that, or you yourself, you need to go home. You need to stay away from the operation for a minimum of 24 hours after the symptoms end. So you got a fever, a full 24 hours after your fever is gone, or you quit throwing up, because those are usually alluding to some kind of virus, something contagious. The number one for the past 7-8 years, the number one, what they call a foodborne illness, which a lot of us think we're thinking E. coli or salmonella, meaning it came from but technically when they track foodborne illness, could mean it came from an employee. Somebody got sick at our restaurant because they ate, but it could have been because an employee passed it along, not just because the meat went bad.
Right.
Norovirus makes up about 50% for the past 5 to 6 years. And COVID, we're not even looking at COVID. Norovirus, which is the really bad stomach bug, the GI bug, it is the number one because a lot of people are carrying it and we don't know. We may not be showing symptoms. It's also the most misdiagnosed as food poisoning. Everybody thinks they have E. coli or something like that because I contracted this morning from somebody, then have lunch, and then about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it hits you, and you think it's food poisoning because it'll hit you, like that. It does. It's not slow. All of a sudden, we're vomiting. So, so norovirus is that virus that's going to come from employees. 24 hours symptom free, they can come back. That's the main one. Jaundice is another one that you may see like on the test, or inspectors may ask about it if we understand. The jaundice is the yellowing of the skin and eyes when our liver, the liver is getting attacked. It's usually, if it comes to illnesses, it's going to be the hepatitis or HIV viruses. Those are a little more where we're going to have to exclude them, of course, and most states say let the local regulatory authority know. And I did want to clarify that local regulatory authority is probably the easiest term. I know you said in Florida, we don't call it the health department, or I'm in North Carolina, we have 100 counties, but we also have the Cherokee Indian Reservation. All 100 counties call it the health department, but the reservation doesn't. So we have to local regulatory authority. It is easier, it is all encompassing because not every state calls it the health department. But So you want to let that authority know that someone has, and then they're going to kind of give us guidance. It doesn't mean anybody's fired or can't ever come in. But those 4 main ones, the fever, vomiting, sore throat, diarrhea, we want them to stay home 24 hours after symptoms end. Just keep track of it. That is going to be the number one way. A lot of people think it's going to be because the E. coli, we didn't cook our burgers correctly, or something like that. But that's not the leading cause. Is employees bringing in the virus to the establishment, and a food truck more than a restaurant because we're in small quarters.
Yep.
There's no way to get if we're coughing, it's got a 6x6 space to be contained in, or if we are getting sick. And of course, the number one tool to stop that would be washing hands. That is our and gloves and everything like that. Is our number one tool as well. I've said this since day one too. Also, kind of being in the industry before I got into the inspection side, was I understood it is not an industry where people want to take off when they're sick.
Mhm.
where there's not a lot of benefits or paid time off or sick days
Right.
in the food industry. So you got to, as some of our food trucks grow and we get more and more employees, it is something, they don't want to miss that gig where they know they're probably
Mhm.
walking away with a good day's wage. They may not share with us, so we got to keep a close eye on it, because that can ruin the business in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about you said one way to help kind of stem off that is to hand wash. So how
Mhm.
should you hand wash and how frequently?
The rule, we're taught usually in daycare. We teach the daycare sing your ABCs. So you don't have
Right.
to sing your ABCs while you're washing your hands in the food truck. But the guidance is 20. It should be a 25 to 30-second process. The entire part of hand washing. 10 to 15 of those seconds should be scrubbing. So scrubbing is the most important part of hand washing, because it's getting all the debris off, all
Mhm.
the germs. If you did that, if you left the restroom, or if you just got through cutting chicken, we're getting all that stuff off it. So a full 25 to 30-second process. Wet your hands first, apply the soap, do the 10 to 15 seconds of scrubbing, rinse that all down the drain, wash all that stuff down the drain, and then it has to have some kind of single-use drying method, so a paper towel or a blow dryer. Can't use a rag or anything that could recontaminate our hands. That's a big one. And then it says frequently, which is very open to interpretation. So it's easier. Most agencies are saying when you switch task.
Yeah.
So I don't need to wash my hands before taking out the trash, but I certainly need to when I'm coming back from taking out the trash. Of course, you can draw those fine lines. You switching from raw food to ready to eat food, of course. Ready to eat food to raw food, not necessarily, because it's just, when are we going to contaminate the next thing? And then definitely before putting on a new pair of gloves, we want to wash our hands before we touch that clean pair of gloves, so we don't contaminate it. But those are when it's required. The hand washing station it also has the most requirements out of all of our sinks. We got to keep the soap and paper towels or blow dryer, keep that stocked. Got to have the warm running water. And then they love the sign. Almost every state loves to take points if that sign falls off, or you don't have that
Yeah.
that sign we've all seen at every hand washing sink, even in the bathrooms, that all employees must wash hands before returning to work. After a smoke break, after going outside, all that kind of stuff, wash your hands. You can never wash them enough.
That's very true. How about the trash can? Does your state require there to be a trash can at the sink and
Yes.
only used for paper towels?
Not every state says only for paper towels, but you do have to have, if you have the paper towel, if you're not using a blow dryer, you do have
Right.
to have a trash can within, kind of up to their judgment if it's close enough. Yeah, you do somewhere to dispose it. But not every state requires it. That's where some go a little more strict and say, wait, you got to have a dedicated
Right.
waste bin just for your sinks, but that's not a federal one yet. Just have to
It
have
needs
one
to be.
nearby. I agree. Yeah, because exactly. It's just, it's one of those things. Once you realize, I think that's why I got out of the inspecting, but still love to teach it, is because I want to, I like to explain why. I think
Mhm.
so many of us were just taught, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do this. I'll do this example real quick, where I feel like it's the eternal debate forever. Anytime I teach a class, if I have 5 or more people, then I'll ask different feedback on employee beverages in a kitchen, because I swear everybody has a different answer. It's because we've all been told one way to do
Right.
it, not from a boss usually. Yes, you're allowed to have your employee drink in a kitchen or in the food truck, but the 3 requirements it has to meet is a lid, so nothing
Mhm.
falls in and out, a straw. A lot of people forget about that straw, so we can't have our Yeti coffee mugs or our
Right.
drink cans or drink bottles. Number one reason, hand to mouth. They want that barrier, so we're drinking, so our hand doesn't get anywhere near our mouth as we take a sip. But the one most of us would get taken points for is it has to be below food surface of food and food contact surfaces. So a lot of times we got our drink or our coffee mug or bottled water right below us, but there's pots and pans or food or utensils down there, and so it's been easier to say no. This is the only place you can put employee drinks. But so I got into the why rather just saying yes or no. You're not allowed to do that, and people kind of forget after you leave.
Mhm.
I learned I was doing the 6-hour inspections that because I was teaching more than I was inspecting, which
Right.
is okay. But if people understand why should you have a dedicated trash can to your hand washing thing? It makes perfect sense, because you got all sorts of food scraps and raw meat and also in trash cans, and you don't want that chance of anything crossing over.
Exactly.
So
And plus, it gives you proof that you actually have been doing hand washing. Because if you throw it into a common trash can, you can't see all the different little wadded up paper towels.
That's a good point. That's a
Yeah.
good point. Yeah, a dry hand washing sink is not a good. It's
Yeah,
also
exactly.
bad
And if the trash
indicator.
can's empty, that's even worse. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, that's what I always look for. Anytime I would go into one of my restaurants, would be go look
Yeah,
at the trash can.
yeah.
We
Is
had
it?
3 hand washing stations. We go look at all 3 of them, and if there
I
weren't
like it.
a lot of wadded up paper towels in there,
Yep.
you're not doing your
Yeah.
job.
A full trash can and a fairly empty soap container is
Yeah,
a good
exactly.
sign in a wet sink. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Then you at least know they're going through the motions,
that's
whether they're
right.
doing the full 20 seconds or not.
That's it. That's it.
We talked about teaching our employees the food handlers, because as a food manager, you can do that. You can be the one. What would be I guess the major points you would want to get across to an employee?
Mhm. I would say temperatures. So everything from our holding temperatures, our hot and cold holding temperatures, and then our minimum internal required cooking temperatures would probably be, really big focus points. And of course, washing hands, because we
Right.
talked about that enough. So we know that one. But definitely for our food handlers, all of our temperatures, and then the way we would store it. If you're getting, especially if you're getting more than one type of protein in, you're doing a lot of different foods. How we're going to store that if we get them in raw in our coolers, and then how to correctly wash, rinse, and sanitize our dishes in all of our food contact surfaces. So roughly that temperature danger zone, which most states call it, the FDA code that most of us are using one way or the other, calls it a danger zone, the temperature danger zone. So we don't want to hold any of our foods that we have to keep hot or cold, our temperature controlled foods. We do not want to keep they have to stay at 41 or below, 135 degrees or higher for hot hold. So that's, and that may be, like in Florida, it might be 40. That's okay. But so 41 or below, overall, or for our refrigerated foods, anything that we put in the refrigerator, cold holding, if we're transporting it, when you receive it from if you get a food truck delivery, or if you run to the store, we want to make sure it's at 41 degrees the whole time. And then anything you're keeping in your steam tables, your hot holding, anything like that, we're gonna keep it at 135 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. That's holding. Where it gets a little harder, I like to put charts up anywhere I work. I'll put the storage chart, which is kind of
Right.
shows all the different foods, and then the minimum internal cooking temperature. So the higher we have to cook it by rule, the lower we're going to store it. So if you start at the top, we want to put all of our just ready to eat foods. It's not going to be cooked. So that could be carrots, or it could be chicken salad, because chicken salad is not getting cooked again. It's going right to somebody's, right to somebody's being eaten. So we're not letting anything drip on it, because it has no chance after that. Nothing raw is going to drip on it. So we're going to put that on the top shelf, because there's no cooking requirement at that point. The next shelf down, and this is great because when I teach the classes for a lot of restaurants, I actually say we have to envision we're on a food truck where we have one refrigerator because, we got big walk-in coolers. You can have one side for chicken, one side for beef,
Yes.
but we don't have that luxury at all in our food trucks. So that's actually what I say when I teach the class. I go, envision we're on this food truck and we have one big refrigerator we have to put our food in. So that top shelf's going to be anything ready to eat, bread down to the chicken salad and everything in between, not going to be cooked. Next shelf down is going to be our produce. So anything that's not a protein. So it's going to be that we're going to cook and be hot held. We're going to cook it to at least 135. So if you're going to keep onions for the burgers hot, anything like that, rice, if we have rice as a side dish, anything that we're keeping that just has to stay hot in those steam tables, we're going to cook it to at least 135 degrees, because we're going to hold it at 135. One below that, 145 degrees. So again, this is why it's easier to put one of these charts. I could even share it with a group. I have a few good ones we can, and I think you have some in the files. Put that up, just print one out and put it up in the kitchen. But 145 is going to be all of our seafood and whole cuts of pork and beef. Once we grind any of that up to hamburger and sausage or anything like that, we're going to go 155 degrees. Our biggest concern with ground beef, because I know we get a lot of burger and taco places, trucks, is E. coli. That's the number one cause of E. coli outbreaks is ground beef every year nationwide. So we cook that to 155 degrees, a little higher. And then all poultry, if it has wings and it lays eggs, it is considered poultry. So that's our turkey and our chicken, of course, and everything else. We go 165 or higher, 165 degrees or higher. And that's for salmonella. That's the second leading. Yeah, the second most common foodborne outbreak behind E. coli is salmonella. And that's going to be from our poultry. I don't know if a couple of months ago, I don't know if some of our food trucks probably were part of this recall, but Jif Peanut Butter had a recall. And I heard it was all over the news, and it said a salmonella outbreak. And if you had two item numbers if you went to your pantry and had one of the two item numbers, then throw it out, everybody else is okay. They did a really good job of narrowing. FDA and USDA work together, and they were able to narrow down the salmonella outbreak to a Kentucky plant. Was it the Kentucky Jif peanut butter's fault? They weren't doing anything wrong, because you think, well, how is salmonella getting into a peanut butter factory?
Yeah.
Well, they backtrack it to the peanut farmer. Guess what was uphill up the mountain from a peanut farmer was a chicken farm. So that salmonella waste was coming downhill to the poor peanut farmer growing his peanuts underground. So that's the salmonella is pretty resilient, but it's going to always come from poultry. And so this going to be on the bottom shelf, because we don't want to let it drip on anything that would be cooked to a lower temperature. So, and then it's getting more and more common as we're getting really crafted and really fun and unique with all of our different offerings. Food trucks are getting just awesome, and craft burgers. I'm seeing so many just fun smash burgers and craft burgers. I go to food truck, rodeos and stuff like that. They're getting really, really neat. Food trucks are allowed as well, just like any restaurant. We are allowed, most states. Again, got to put the disclaimer, check with your local inspector, but according to the federal code, food trucks, food trailers can offer undercooked, or as I call it, food cooked to order, meaning they ask for a burger. How would you like that cooked? Medium well. But the biggest thing there, if anybody's listening that's thinking about it, the two things you have to follow, and every state's going to agree with this, it has to be cooked to order, so we know we're cooking it for the person who ordered it, and we have to have a consumer advisory out there for us. So it just lets them know that, you can order a medium burger, but it can't be the ones if we made 50 ahead of time and they're just sitting there in the steam well. We can't offer those undercooked, because we don't know which ones. But if somebody orders a medium steak or a medium burger or sunny side up eggs, we are allowed to on food trucks, as long as we have the consumer advisory and we cook it to order specifically for that customer. We've covered ourselves. We're not getting in trouble. It's not coming back to us.
Yeah, and that's the important part. We cover ourselves and don't get in trouble.
That's it. Yeah. They took the liability on. We put that disclaimer out there for them.
Tomorrow we're going to be talking about how health inspectors turn into detectives whenever they're told about a potential problem with a food truck or a restaurant. Thank you so much for listening to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. If you're finding all the information helpful to your food truck business, please become a monthly supporter of the podcast. Just hit the support button or follow the link in the description. Every little bit does help keep us going. Join our Facebook group. It's called Food Truck Training. We have a whole bunch of awesome members at all different levels, from brand new beginners to decades-old veterans. They've all got your back when it comes to helping you with your food truck. And again, thank you for listening. Come back tomorrow, because I got plenty more to say when it comes to helping you and your food truck business grow.